There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between radio and bar talk, between commentary and recaps, and it lies between the pit of man's Netflix subscriptions and the summit of his binge-watching ability. This is the dimension of podcasting and the Twilight Zone. These are the Zone-i-Sodes. And now your hosts, Brandon Davis and Scott McFarland.
And hello to all of you out there in podcast world. This is the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies and TV. Considering what we're talking about here today, once again, you are listening now to our newest Zone-i-Sode episode for the Twilight Zone, episode 11 for "And When the Sky Was Opened," which aired on CBS December 11th, 1959. So rolling right along, finally in the double digits here, Scott.
And we're almost in the 60s. Almost.
Yeah.
Just barely. No Christmas episode.
We're getting there. No, that's true. That's true. Although the next one is they kind of give kind of a holiday-ish sort of theme to it, but not really.
If you think about people getting hit by cars and the car driving away as a holiday,
well,
more power to you.
Holiday?
It's about the spirit of giving, though.
I don't know about Lincoln, Illinois, but for me, that's not a holiday.
The spirit of giving broken femurs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was trying to.
That's for another.
That's
week.
for the next podcast.
We'll get drunk in Santa in season 3.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. But right now we're talking about the joy of people disappearing out of nowhere and memories of them just being
much like Santa Claus.
Forgot. Yeah.
Also a good Christmas season theme.
But I've kind of buried the lead here, but we have a special guest here with us on this episode of.
There's another head down at the bottom.
We have our wonderful editor-in-chief, Jeremy Geckner, with us.
What's up? I am going to keep this short and brief, but I am so happy to be on the Zone-i-Sodes. I think it is the best show we're doing, and just call me Ed Harrington.
Can I get that in writing so I can show Craig?
Sure. Sure you can.
Since he doesn't like Moana, then his show doesn't work for me. So
yeah,
it's okay.
That's ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're that's another podcast too, actually.
But
we're as I mentioned before, we're talking about episode 11 here, and when the sky was opened. And do you want me to? I guess Scott, you should do the plot synopsis before I do Rod's.
You're the host, boss. You tell me.
Yeah, do that.
Yes, sir.
Give us the synopsis, Scott.
Greg Forbes and William Gart are experimental aircraft pilots who just returned from an amazing 900-mile mission into space. And just so you know, 900 miles is about 0.003% of the distance to the moon. On this trip, they blacked out for 24 hours and ended up crashed back on Earth. Both are healing well, except that Clegg believes that there was a third pilot, Ed Harrington. Clegg tries to remind William of Ed, but William has no recollection of this other pilot. Soon after, Clegg disappears, and William is the only one left, until he too disappears. In the end, even the plane is gone from the hangar, and no one remembers any of them.
Very
Pretty
nice.
easy plot.
Pretty easy.
Yep. And here is what Rod had to say. X-20, her type, an experimental interceptor. Recent history, a crash landing in the Mojave Desert after a 31-hour flight 900 miles into space. Incidental data, the ship with the men who flew her disappeared from the radar screen for 24 hours. Mysteries are not always made out of a tarpaulin, as this man will find out on the other side of a hospital door.
Question, What are they intercepting in space?
Beats me.
It looked like the standard kind of B2 kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess not B2, but the same kind of spy plane type. But it's an interceptor and it goes into space.
Yeah.
They're intercepting wormholes, clearly.
I'm just curious.
The X-20 dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's a different episode. And that was a 700 or whatever, 727.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So we'll get started here actually though with our special guest. Jeremy, what are your opinions of this episode?
This is actually, I think, a pretty well-written episode.
Mhm.
I first off want to say Rod Taylor literally could have played Kirk Douglas at parties because he looks a lot like a young Kirk Douglas to me. But I actually think this episode is really built on his performance, and he actually does really good with it. I especially really love the ending where he's just kind of, I mean, the whole show is him just slowly melting down. And I mean, he plays it so well, especially at the end. I mean, when he finally goes back to the bar and, hulks through the window and somehow doesn't get cut, I just the look on his face, like just the way he says Ed is so pathetic and like so sad and I was just like, I just wanted to reach out and give him a hug and just be like, it's okay, Clegg. But it's a pretty simplistic plot, and the only complaint I have about it, or do we do that later?
Yeah, you can do it right now in your opening remarks.
I mean, I'll save it for a little later, but I just because I just want, like, Rod Taylor does really, really good in this episode, and he's the crux of it, and I think that's really what makes it enjoyable.
All right, Scott.
I probably should unmute myself again. This is one of those. I hearken back to another show that was very much like this in terms of one writer for most of it and kind of just rolling through it. And that's Babylon 5, which I've talked about a lot. And one of the things that the showrunner and main writer for Babylon 5 said many times when he was being interviewed, J. Michael Straczynski, is every few episodes you have to do something that's in 1 or 2 sets so everyone doesn't die from all the production requirements. And this is one of those shows. We have the bar and we have the hospital. That's it. Mm-hmm. And we have fewer characters than we have had in the past couple episodes. Mm-hmm. That being said, it all works. I like the as Jeremy mentioned, Clegg's performance and just his quiet and his understanding that something is off with the world and trying to explain it to people and people thinking he's crazy. The guy who played Ed also was he was a little bit over the top more. Yeah, Jeremy, I get it. You're going to talk about it. Don't worry.
No, yeah, you're right.
But it's also got some interesting themes to it. We got, what I like about it is there is no solution. A couple times I've kind of complained that these first couple episodes have kind of shown us, like, okay, the last one, Judgment Night, let's have the two Nazis talking about they're going to be damned for all eternity. Well, we really didn't need that. we have no idea what's happening to these guys or to their plane, and we never will, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I actually like the simplicity of this episode because I feel like in the past couple, Rod's given us really, really complex stories, more to think about. But here he kind of presents you with this simple narrative, and you watch it play out 3 times with 3 different men. But it's scary all 3 times. It's the scariest the first time when you don't know what's going on, when Harrington is sitting at the bar and drops his glass because something's not right. I mean, that's a great moment. But yeah, it all hinges on Rod Taylor's performance, and I think Rod Taylor's kind of one of the underrated actors from this era. This is a couple of years before his big role in The Birds for Hitchcock.
Yeah.
But he had a good career. Actually, just passed away a couple of years ago. But yeah, a really good cast. I think the 3 actors are very well cast, although the other 2 get a bit melodramatic at times. But it's a melodramatic situation. I mean, you're disappearing from the face of the earth, so what are you going to do?
I'm going to drop my beer.
Well, I'll tell you,
that
moment, the very first look that he gives, the very first one where he doesn't drop the beer, but when he just kind of gives that his face changes so starkly. I thought actually that was really well done because it really kind of, I thought he like saw something like in a mirror and they were going to show it or something.
Yeah.
But like it was really cool. It was just a feeling. Then yeah, he kind of gets a little heavy breathy. Let me over emote a little bit here. But then again, as I think Scott, you just said, Brandon, you're disappearing from existence. So I mean that probably doesn't feel great.
Well, the description he uses was interesting too. I feel if I would just let myself go, I would just disappear. So you're having to force yourself to be there, which is interesting. And I think you kind of see that a little bit with Clegg later on, that he's kind of having the same issue. William goes so quick you never get to see his like real fear. But at least with Ed and Clegg, you got to see it.
Yeah, I actually think I have a theory about that too, but I think there's a lot of theories we have to discuss with this episode.
Yeah, Scott, I just wanted to get your opinion on it real quick. I read that there was some sort of episode, since you're the Star Trek expert, I read somewhere there's a Star Trek Next Generation episode that has a similar plot to this.
Yeah, okay.
Like that.
Yes, and I think it's a Crusher episode, if I remember right. She comes back from shore leave, and her people keep the crew keeps disappearing on her, and it's something. The title is like "Remember Me" or something. I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, it was a Crusher heavy episode. She was the one who was having everyone disappear on her. Now I'm gonna have to go search.
The co-writer of this episode, Richard Matheson, who co-wrote this with Serling, actually wrote a short story called Disappearing Act for a magazine of fantasy and science fiction in 1953. So this was taken from that short story.
Yeah, but, it's a very well-written thing. I mean, I guess kind of as a sci-fi tale, it kind of leaves a little something to be desired because it gives us so little in way of explanation as to why it's happening. I mean, like there's not even a hint of what it is. It's just that something's off, they feel it, and then they disappear.
I want to. I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say I want to slap my Trek knowledge card on the table right now. Episode 79. Remember Me.
Nice.
Enterprise docks at Starbase 133, where Beverly Crusher greets her elderly friend and mentor. Blah 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 blah. Ha-ha!
From now on, every time we need answers, we will say, "Make it so, Scott."
I even had the title down. Okay.
That's nice.
But even so, this is 1959. This is the, just beginning to be the height of the Cold War. Paranoia is running rampant, and, I guess people were of the opinion that anyone could disappear at any time, probably.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I guess
ways
it works as an allegory. Yeah, I guess it works as an allegory like that.
Kind of. Well, I think a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes are really sort of a comment on what was going on at the time, Cold War and race for space and all that kind of stuff.
If you live in North Korea, we can still disappear you.
Well, yeah.
Still time.
Yeah, well, let's get on to what we think, first of all, works about this episode the best. I know we've hit on some of it, but Scott, we'll start with you. What works the best for this episode?
I think the actor who plays Clegg, which I'm blanking on his name again, but you already said it.
Rod Taylor. Yeah.
Thank you.
Rod Taylor.
I think he holds the episode together really well. The theme, again, I think is interesting. There's a theory that goes, I guess not a theory, but something that goes around the internet a lot lately, and it's kind of goofy, but it's called the Mandela effect. I don't know if you guys have heard of that or not.
Yeah.
So for the few folks who haven't seen all the kooky YouTube videos, the idea is that there are some folks who believe that they have switched dimensions, and in their dimension, Mandela died in prison, where obviously in the world we live in, Mandela lived to a ripe old age and was president for quite some time of South Africa. So it's called the Mandela effect for that reason. But the whole idea is you remember something that no one else does. The pop culture one on that was it Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears with an A or an E, and depending on who you ask, you're going to get multiple answers.
What a critical cultural milestone to base that on.
Is when you read it, was it the Berenstain or Berenstain Bears?
Berenstain.
Steen.
Spell it for me.
I thought it was B-E-R.
B-E-R-E-N-S-T-E-I-N.
EIN? Go Google it right now. Go Google it right now, Jeremy.
Well, I'm scared, man.
Go Google
You're making me think I'm going to disappear out of existence here. I don't want to go Ed Harrington here, man.
Jeremy's going to have his head explode.
What was that? What was that whole thing where everybody thought they remembered a movie where Sinbad played a genie? Or
That's
something
the same
like
idea.
that?
Same idea.
And
Shazam.
a movie like that. And a movie like that never existed.
No, you are totally correct. You're totally correct, Brandon, to bring that up, because that is such a great example of this. Because people like swear to high heaven that they have seen that movie.
The best thing
he comes out and says, "No, I've never even read a script like that."
Yeah.
The best thing was, though, for April Fools, he did do something where he actually did it. So that was fun. But no, so
you really did just blow my mind, by the way, because the first two Google results, one says it just like I spelled it, and then there's another that's Berestain.
Yeah,
and then right next to it, Bernstein.
Yeah, but do an image search. It's AIN. The books are AIN.
You are correct.
So you're from a different dimension.
Yeah.
Welcome to
I'll
ours.
see you guys later.
I remember when I caught this, and obviously it's just a trick of your mind, but when I caught this, I remembered it as Stain as well too. So when I saw Berenstain or Steen, and I saw Berenstain Bear, it kind of threw me off. But so that's something that actually people are, it's in the zeitgeist now, especially with conspiracy theory folks and all that good stuff. So that's interesting too. It's something that we haven't dealt with before. We always joke how Rod has 4 or 5 things he keeps going back to. This is a new one.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and it works in this episode. Jeremy, what do you think works best in the episode? I know you like Rod Taylor, but anything else?
Yeah, no, the only thing I want to say about Rod Taylor again is that I absolutely love the shot where after he breaks into the bar and he just like kind of pathetically pushes the chairs off the table. It's like the one last act of defiance that he can't even. I mean, like it just goes to like how pathetic he is at that moment and how far he's fallen down. But I think the way that the episode gets you to think about what it could be that's causing this, because I started jotting down like theories and everything about why that happened. And my big thing, I think most of us will probably agree it's probably an alternate dimension that they somehow wandered into. I guess we'll talk about that more in a second. But I think the reason why it takes them shorter amounts of time to disappear is because the less of them that there are, the weaker their hold in this reality is. Like, because then that's why I think Gart at the end disappears so quickly, because there's nobody there to try and reinforce that he's in the right place anymore. So I think that actually works well.
And that's what makes this episode stronger is you can, 60, 70 years later come up with that theory for yourself, because Rod doesn't pop up at the end and say, here's what happened.
By the way, it was aliens.
Which he's done before.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. I echo all the things that you all said, but one of the impressive things about this episode for me is, of course, you're with Forbes the whole time. He's the main protagonist and everything, and then by the end of the episode he's disappeared, and now you're totally with Gart for however long he's with. And so that I think Rod did a really good job, and the actor Jim Hutton does a good job of having your sympathies totally shift over to him, even though those 3 guys are kind of a unit. But that works really, really well for me at the end. And I do like the scene where he goes back to the bar after it's closed. He can get a little melodramatic, tossing things around, but it shows the desperation really, really well.
But kids, have you ever tried to bust through an entire plate glass window? Because it doesn't break cleanly, and you do not get cut.
Jeremy, is there something you'd like to tell us about your past?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Look, if I can't go back to Tennessee, that's the gist of it. All right, but still.
Are you on some kind of database?
The glass breaking database. I'm already from another dimension. I mean,
another nice thing going off of what you guys just said too is I like that it drops you in. They use flashbacks instead of just starting out. So you immediately have Clegg Forbes kind of freaking out right at the beginning of the episode. And I like I like that as an introduction for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now let's move on. The things that don't necessarily work in this episode, Scott?
Ed Harrington.
Poor Charles Aidman.
Jeremy, you're probably right. The first few seconds of him kind of, having his phase out, if you want to call it that, is okay. And when he's just being one of the guys, when we first see him, he's joking around and he's kind of play punching at William. That's fine. But as soon as he starts trying to play like things are changing in his head or whatever it's going on, and especially when he finds out his dad doesn't know who he is, he just goes so over the top.
Yeah.
It kind of pulls me out, especially the whole bar scene just kind of pulls me out. That and whatever bra that girl was wearing at the bar was just weird. Tell me you didn't notice that.
The first thing I did notice.
Yeah, that scene where he's on the phone with his dad could have been a whole lot more effective, I feel like, had another actor kind of played it a bit more subtly.
I guess the sense that he's already feeling something weird inside him maybe lends into that, but you're right. It's just kind of like, I think I'd be a little bit more, I don't know, like Sherlock Holmesy about it. Like, this is weird. I want to know what's happening here instead of, oh my God.
It's really just the bar chili. It's kind of going bad.
Yeah, there you go. Or the beer was, just really that bad.
Anything that doesn't work for you, Jeremy?
Again, like it's not like I want to prefer that this thing I'm about to say would happen, but if Rod would have given me like a little hint as to what this might be causing this, I wouldn't have minded.
So you want exactly what I love about the episode. You want to get rid of.
No, I love the ambiguousness of it, but I think it's because like you mentioned it at the start, Scott, how there's like literally only I think total of 3 sets in this whole episode, and like if you count like the hotel room where his girl comes, Amy, I think that. Like because it feels so small and everything, but he's playing with such this big idea of, like an alternate dimension or anything. I don't know. I wouldn't have minded if it was just kind of like one of them would have said like, maybe we're in a different dimension or something, just as a passing line, but like, but at the same time, you're right. Like the ability to go and make theories out of it is actually another awesome thing about it.
Don't worry about the sets. In 2 episodes, we want to be able to do a cityscape. We'll just have neon lights.
That's where the budget from this episode goes.
There you go. Sacrifices.
Stay tuned for 2 weeks from now, kids. We'll talk about it.
But no, and you mentioned her, and I always talk about how Rod's sort of a master of casting. I think he could have cast a different actress as Amy. Maxine Cooper doesn't really work all that well for me. I don't know. She's just a little too.
The 3 lines she had wasn't good for you, Brandon.
I don't know. She's just she comes off a little too cold for me, but I don't know. Maybe that's just the way.
It is a little withdrawn.
It's her bedside manner.
But
Nurse Ratched.
Oh, yeah. She Louise Fletchered it a little too much, but
she was also in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, the best Star Trek.
DS9 in it.
Nice. Before we now get to our usual ending the rankings and everything, any other which Scott kind of manipulated last time, but we'll get it.
But I think I'm actually okay now. I snuck a peek ahead, and there are better episodes coming, so my scale is not broken.
Oh, good.
But I'll explain that in a bit.
Okay.
Any other question, like for the 2 of you, like, are you assuming, like I am, that the alternate dimension thing is what we're dealing with in this episode? Like,
I told you,
like aliens like taking them away or anything like that, or
it was bad bar chili. I'm telling you, it was somebody's bad dream. It was a nurse's bad dream.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the only thing that makes sense, right? Like, with the newspaper. And
I mean, if we were hospital food.
Yeah, hospital food.
Damn Jello. No, and I when I used to look for stories to tell kids when I worked at summer camp, one of the things I would always explain to them is physics and dimensions, and how if you are a 2-dimensional person, which means you only have height and length. I'm not sorry, width and length instead of height, so no depth. And you saw a 3-dimensional person, you would only see the portion that you could understand, so you would only see them intersect in your 2-dimensional world. So a 4th-dimensional person operates in time. So they can operate in time wherever they want to at any given time, but you are only going to see them when they intersect in your time. So we're just dealing with multiple dimensions here. So those dudes are probably still hanging on the bed. They just not hopefully together, I guess. If that's what floats their boat, whatever. But those guys are probably still there, just not in the intersection where people can see them or know.
Okay, so you think they just vanish from the visible spectrum, like they don't get to go back to their own?
Yeah, it doesn't explain the memory thing, but hey, I'm trying.
Yeah, no, but you see, like you're right. Like that's a good part of this episode. It could be right.
Yeah, I think it's some sort of alien, life, other dimension that way or something like that. But
it's that 3-eyed guy from Venus we'll see years from now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, like the wormhole theory is the only thing I can come up with is like they disappear for 24 hours. So I mean, where do they go and what happens?
Anal probes.
Somebody had to say it. I mean, I'm just glad it was Scott.
Well, okay. I forgot to mention this. Okay, one of the first lines that William says, and it's obviously just colloquialism from the 50s that we're not used to anymore. If I get one more thermometer stuck up my puss,
Well, yeah.
when he said that,
Yep.
I'm just like, okay. I'm sure that makes sense in 1959. For
The
me,
vernacular's changed just a little.
for me, it opens up a whole new dynamic to the story.
Yep.
Well,
That's all I got.
let's get now to our ranking of this episode, which Jeremy, you will get to participate in this time.
Although your score may or may not count. We haven't decided.
Yeah, I was about to say, let me break the scale.
We've got Scott, we've got Craig's score here still kind of hanging in the balance from Time Enough at Last. But just a reminder for people who are just joining us or whatever, we rank these episodes a little differently from 1 to 10. 10 being the best that Twilight Zone has to offer. 5 being average Twilight Zone episode, which for any other show would probably be their best outing. And a 1, which would be, terrible. But, for other show standards, yeah. A preview for 4 years down the road.
I'm just going to call 1 Bewitching Pool. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in 2019, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott, let's start with you. Where does this episode fall in your scale?
This is above average episode, but I don't think it was good as Judgment Night, which I gave a 7. So I'm going to give it a 6. But I do want to point out for those playing the home game, I've decided I have not broken my scale because there are better episodes coming up. So 8 is my highest right now. I'm okay with.
Oh, okay.
Which was Walking Distance. So
okay.
I'm okay.
All right. I've been a little more generous, although his rankings and I have been pretty close. Walking Distance is my highest ranking with a 10. And but I do think this is an above average episode, but I'm going to give this one an 8.
Ooh.
Because it's not as iconic as Time Enough at Last, which I gave it 9. So I'm going to give this one an 8.
What'd you give Judgment Night last week?
A 9.
Yeah.
Okay. You're an easy grader.
No, I don't.
I want you to teach my college courses.
I gave Mr. Denton a 3.
Because it was Mr. Denton. I gave the idiot in the corner an F. Well, yeah, because he's an idiot in the corner.
It's kind of like when that teacher gives the kid a D- just so they can graduate. Like, I don't want to deal with you again, Mr. Denton.
That's called social promotion, and it's a huge problem in education.
Yes, it is.
Did I mention?
You'll see lower.
It was scary. It was a scary
You'll
situation.
See lower rankings coming out of me soon.
True.
All right, Jeremy. Where on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put this episode?
Coincidentally enough, Scott says 6. You say 8. I say 7. I think, and it's weird, but I think I do it not for the episode per se, but more because of the conversation it spurs. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest hallmarks about Rod Serling's work is it makes you think, and it makes you think well after you've seen it. And this is one of those prime examples, just because you can spin off so many theories. And also because on its merits, Rod Taylor's performance is really, really something to behold. Yeah. And so I think based on those, I think it would be it'd be around a 7. It's a pretty darn good watch, and it's a great think afterward.
Yeah. So Jeremy, I'm sure we'll have you on again because, well, you're our boss, but so we kind of have to.
Sure.
But what would you categorize as a 10? Give me an episode you would say it was a 10.
Like of any of them?
Yeah, let's just calibrate you here.
I definitely think Eye of the Beholder is a 10.
Okay. Just don't throw out 15 episodes, just one spot.
No, I think that one, and honestly, I've always had a little love for, I think the movie did it better, but Terror at 20,000 feet or 30,000 feet.
Oh, we're going to have a very long discussion about the Shat Fest.
Yeah, I mean, like Shatner's mannerisms aside, like I think that story is that's a pretty terrifying story.
Well, we've got another Shatner episode coming up sooner, though.
Yeah, and actually, I think I've already said this, and I'll say it again. The Shat episode I love calling him the Shat. The Shat episode we did first is better.
Yeah,
there are two Shatner episodes, and 20,000 feet is not his best.
Yeah,
but stay tuned.
Either way, I also want to be on the one with Cliff Robertson and the dummy. That one always scared the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah.
You think the dummy's bad? Wait until you get to the doll. The doll's even worse.
I think I've seen clips of the doll. I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through, though.
Oh, that one will give you nightmares. You've been bad.
I had one of those My Buddy dolls when I saw Child's Play as a kid. So
my dad's a son of a bitch. Okay? I'm just going to start out here.
Just leave it there.
My first movie I remember seeing in theaters was Lethal Weapon. I think I've said that before in flashbacks. So my dad didn't care about rating systems at all. So he took Craig and I to see Child's Play. Oh. And before then, he had bought 2 My Buddy dolls.
That's great.
One was blue, one was red on the overalls. He put them in the back seat of the car without us knowing it, and we came out of the theater, and there they were.
Actually, kind of a parenting win then. I got to give your dad props for that, man. That means he had to have done that like before you went into the theater.
He planned it out. It was quite nice.
Like that's awesome. Well, I had to put mine in the garage after I saw that movie. I couldn't do it.
Buried under blankets and never came out. Yeah. For those who you damn millennials who never had to deal with a My Buddy doll, when he sat up, the eyes opened up.
Yeah, just not cool.
Yes.
Sorry, random moments with Scott.
Yeah. That's okay, because next week's episode, there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about.
Tell me more, Brandon.
There's a guy who used to play for the Cubs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So but like I said, we've been on a really interesting string of episodes here.
And there's sexism.
Yeah.
You need to call up Allison immediately.
I try to point out where I find it, and there's some there. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there is. So we will wrap it up here for this episode. We've got a lot more coming down the pike here for you. We know that Jeremy will be on again for at least 2 episodes here.
2 out of 156. That's our limit. No more.
But no, it was fun having you on, and we're just gonna keep on rolling here. Before we do our plugging and everything, or actually do the plugging before I read Rod's final words.
I always like to do my plugging before I read. I'm sorry.
You can find us at thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. That's basically. You can see all of our shows, classics, flashbacks, and all these Zone-i-Sodes there. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else in between.
Dude, this is like.
I'm sure.
I feel like Rod would be proud of us right now. I feel like he would be proud.
I actually am crying right now. But also too, if you're listening to us through podcast, please make sure that you give us a rating on iTunes or whatever you check out your podcasting. Jeremy will say any rating counts. I say bullshit. You give us a 5, and you give us the best rating possible.
Give us a 5, and you'll like it.
Yes. And then also, if you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can catch our other episodes and check out our channel. And that's all I got.
All right. Well, we just concluded episode 11. We're just rolling along here.
Chicka.
And for this episode of Zone-i-Sodes, I am Brandon Davis.
Scott McFarland.
Jeremy Geckner.
And we will see you on the couch if we don't disappear first.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Zone-i-Sodes. Zone-i-Sodes is a special presentation of the Front Row Movie Reviews podcast. For more information, go to www.thefrontrowmoviereviews.com.